Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel for the next installment of the Monday Morning Rundown. So, thanks for joining me for another episode. There's actually a pretty decent amount of things to discuss today. So, obviously, we'll start by saying welcome back to the channel. For those of you that are just joining us for the first time, look, this is just an opportunity for me to give you a couple of thoughts on releases, announcements, little bits of news that are going on in the six scale world. I am continually trying to improve these a little bit. So you'll see some banners today. It's kind of going to be a hit or miss, but we're also going to discuss some movie trailers because I think one of the big things as collectors and the biggest kind of genres that we have right now are those Marvel, DC, Star Wars things. So anytime we get a trailer, well, obviously we hope that the movie is going to be good. There's also a component that is involved in terms of collecting, where we already start anticipating what if any six scale figures we might be getting. So obviously there's a big trailer to kind of go over a little bit, and I'll show it in the background. Some news from J&D, Ecosion Works, who is clearly not dead, although at some point it seemed like they might be. Then a couple of releases, a couple of very interesting announcements, and at the time of recording this, I'm not seeing anything from Hot Toys, but that's not to say that by the time I post this video, Hot Toys won't have surprised us with another announcement, as they have been known to do, especially usually on Sunday nights into Monday mornings. But yeah, there's a lot to discuss, and obviously the other thing, for those of you that celebrating Christmas or any of the holidays, happy holidays, Merry Christmas. We're in the season right now. Hopefully, you get a lot of good times and time to relax and spend with family, friends, or just get some well-deserved rest, especially at the end of the year as we go towards New Year's. So if I don't get an opportunity to say that, just happy holidays to everybody, and again, just best of wishes. So with that, let's start getting into things, and let's start with releases first. And I think we basically touched on one of these a little bit earlier, which was, or in the last episode, and that was the Ant-Man release from Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. So we already saw, obviously, the preview of the updated Paul Rudd head sculpt, and I want to stay on this picture actually a little bit longer because I do think it's worth looking into a little bit. So look, the armor, phenomenal, right? I mean, looking at this, it's got that distinctive red and black look. The silver looks great. Even the kind of textured element on the top of the helmet, it's very cool looking, right? The original one that I have, which I love that original suit, right, has that full silver helmet. So this gives it just a little bit more of a sleek appearance. And then paired up with the Wasp, which came out a while ago too, it does look great. So I will say the saving grace to this figure, notwithstanding the movie, which I think a lot of us, I actually liked the movie a lot. I'm going to be honest. It's probably not the most popular opinion. I thought the movie was fine. I liked what they did with it. I thought some of the things were a little iffy, but overall, I personally found myself enjoying it a lot. And I thought, the story taking on a little bit more of an almost like a Star Wars heavy science fiction spin to it, I thought was pretty welcome. I thought Kang was pretty awesome in the movie as well. Obviously, we know what happened to the character and more particularly the actor, but I thought it was a great introduction. So I like this version of Ant-Man, and I like the suit. Very sleek. It's just another slightly upgraded, modified suit. The only real major difference suit-wise that we've seen from Marvel with Ant-Man was that original version, right? That one, the more classic-looking suit, I think stands apart. Everything else since then has been just slight modifications, color variations, slight tweaks, the belt, the color pattern, the panel patterns, but it's basically the same thing. Now we get into the sculpt, and this is again, I think I told you guys last time. I was also on with my buddy Fabs on his stream on Tuesday last week, and we were discussing this. It's not a bad sculpt as far as sculpt goes, right? Meaning there's detail, right? There's the hair looks good, the hairline looks fine. It just doesn't look like Paul Rudd to me. to me, that was an epic miss from Hot Toys. And he just seems to be an actor that for some reason Hot Toys cannot seem to capture. Other than that original Ant-Man figure, which was also partially obscured because the sculpt was within the mask as well, right? There was very little that you could basically, I mean, it was kind of like a half sculpt, right? So that's just the one thing that I would note, right? This is definitely a little bit more involved, and I think Hot Toys is just missing it. Now, look, these smaller elements, especially the Wasp, has that very dynamic look to it. I mean, I think that's pretty awesome. The running Ant-Man, I feel like we've seen those before in the past, right? So what's missing in this little setup is Hot Toys had teased the Cassie Lang, right? So that's the one disappointment from this line. We would have had a new character. At least we got the Kang figure from this, but it would have been great to see the Cassie Lang, which they definitely did tease to us or they teased for a while. And unfortunately, it just doesn't look like that's ever going to happen. Now, I won't say never, because one of the figures we're going to discuss later on is actually something that was teased back, I think, in 2015, 2016, and finally made its appearance, 8 years later. So there's nothing to say that Hot Toys won't ever revisit some of these lines. So listen, as far as release goes, this was not one of the most anticipated figures I think we've gotten, right? It's just a basic upgrade to the Ant-Man figure. The sculpt isn't there. So it, to me, and look, one of the biggest things you can see right here in the sculpt that I think definitely detracts from this is, look, the eyes look phenomenal, right? Hot Toys gets those perfectly right, but there's something here where this eye just looks like it's almost like it's a little bit smaller and swollen. I would have almost preferred a battle damage look for this figure, honestly, something from that final battle with Kang. As it stands right now, again, good sculpt, just doesn't look like Paul Rudd to me. The rest of and I think what saves this figure is the fact that you can get the fully masked sculpt, whereas I think the Evangeline Lilly Wasp figure has much more of a better likeness. I wasn't crazy about her hairstyle, but I think Hot Toys nailed her likeness a little bit here. Looking at this one, I think this is the better likeness over the Ant-Man. Now, with this lighting, with things being a little darker, I think the sculpt definitely does have a little bit of an improvement. But overall, I think this was just a miss. I am looking to get these two figures. I haven't gotten them yet, and the reason is I'm playing that game. Like I said, I don't think these are going to sell out. They're sold out on Sideshow, but you can get them from other resellers and retailers for, I think you're going to see these for a discounted price. So I'm taking the chance because I do have the previous Wasp. I do have previous versions of Ant-Man. So while I do want to get these, I think there are other figures I want to prioritize over that. And again, I'm taking a gamble that because the movie was not as well received as some of the other Marvel properties and some of the other figures we're going to talk about, that there's going to be a chance there for, for me to get a discount on these. But having said that, again, I think the saving grace to this figure is without a doubt having this the fully masked sculpt, because I don't know that I'd be super content showcasing kind of this this Paul Rudd sculpt. Good sculpt, just not Paul Rudd to me. All right, so now moving on, I think that's it for actual releases. They did release the Dark Knight Armory, but I'm not too crazy about it. So not, and just to avoid making this a bigger deal, or bigger, a longer video, I'm probably going to skip over that. But now let's jump into announcements, because there are a couple of good ones for that. So let's look at, and this is where Hot Toys, we saw that these were coming already, right? This is no surprise to us. We saw these teased at a couple of the shows that they had. So Hot Toys is delivering on what they promised, essentially. And what they promised here was Batman from Batman and Robin. I have mixed feelings about this. I do, right? Obviously, I'll tell you right now, I grew up with the 89 Batman. Batman Returns is without a doubt, I think, my favorite of those two movies. There was just something about that. Maybe it was the winter setting, right? It's a little bit dark. I tend to gravitate towards movies that are a little bit darker, which you'll also talk about when we get to the trailers. But I remember having a bit of a surprise when I saw Batman Forever with Val Kilmer, because obviously the director at the time, no longer being Tim Burton, went in a totally opposite direction and gave us this bright, super neon lit Gotham City that just didn't match the dark aesthetic of the original 89 movie and the 92 Batman Returns. So that was a little jarring. It just seemed to gravitate towards more of an over the top feel and more campiness. It was still fine. I did find myself enjoying that movie, even though I did pass on the Val Kilmer figure because he's still available, and I think I'm going to get him. I'm waiting for him to go super cheap, and I think I'm going to be able to do that. And it was also not the base suit; it was the sonar suit from the end of the movie. So, look, it's not one of those figures that if I miss out on and I don't end up getting him, I'm going to lose any sleep over. Having said that, then we jump into this Batman and Robin release. Now, while I said Batman Forever was ultra campy, and it's Joel Schumacher, right, the director. When Joel Schumacher came back to do Batman and Robin, you would have thought, right? First of all, George Clooney, interesting casting choice, right? I think he played the role of Bruce Wayne well. I'm not sure that he embodied Batman as well as the other actors that have portrayed the character in the past and have portrayed the character after him. And look, if you watch any of the interviews with George Clooney, he's honest, and I'll give the guy credit for this. He admits that he basically almost killed the franchise. And I think this did for a while. And it's just crazy because you had George Clooney, who at that time was coming off of, a couple of really big shows like ER and all these other things. So he was an up-and-coming actor, or maybe already an established actor at that point in time. You had Arnold Schwarzenegger, fan favorite, coming in as Mr. Freeze. Uma Thurman coming in as Poison Ivy. So the pedigree on this, right, was actually pretty decent. And then I think it just went ultra campy. And I think that's where this got me, right? And I'm sorry if I'm going on an aside, but I kind of feel like I need to explain to you my thought process, because you're probably going to think, what the hell are you thinking when all is said and done? But look, I remember when I started watching it, that first scene with Batman and Robin taking on the Mr. Freeze's his henchmen, right? And they clap their feet and skates come out. It was definitely geared towards a much younger audience. At least that's what it felt like, as opposed to 89 and Batman Returns, which, yes, it did have things that would appeal to a younger audience. It's Batman after all. It also had the dark tones that I think adult audiences also found very engaging. Whereas here it was more like, wow, it was cool. It was clear that this was designed to sell action figures, right? That was what it was. It was give Batman as many different interesting looks as possible. And even the end battle, like ice suits, right, with the different vehicles that they're using, right? It was just over the top, extremely campy. The version of Bane we got here was terrible. The one-liners, look, I enjoyed it. In retrospect, some of these still make you laugh, especially Arnold's one-liners. Arnold with the fuzzy slippers, in the bathrobe, which is kind of ridiculous again. And credit to So Toys, who actually did that figure. So if you're interested, that was actually a pretty interesting release. Not something I jumped into, but look. Anyway, let's get into the figures. So Hot Toys is wrapping up their Batman line, because at this point they've done everything, right? They've done Keaton, Kilmer, Pattinson, Christian Bale, Ben Affleck. We've gotten basically every type of Batman. They even did Adam West, right? So now this kind of brings the line to a conclusion, because they're finally doing the George Clooney Batman. And look, obviously one of the big things that everybody noticed was that they gave this suit bat nipples. I remember the suit up being like, that's interesting. Look, this is not a figure. This was not a movie to be taken seriously. And maybe that was one of the big things. So look, as far as the figure, it's a very simple look because it's all black rubber. Um, there's no even the bat symbol on the chest. I'm trying to see if we can get a closer look. Um, right, it's very much just a black bat symbol, right? Everything it's monochrome, right? It's single color, right? The utility belt is the same, although this utility belt doesn't even have pockets for anything. It's a very simple looking suit overall, right? The boots, same thing, nothing crazy. He's got the bat logos there. This is going to be one of those Batman Begins, Batman Forever type suits that are rubbery. You don't even really see him in many dynamic poses, right? He's lifting the arm slightly. He's holding these oversized, kind of ridiculous looking silver batarangs. This is an interesting look, just holding that belt. Um, look, all these are accurate to the movie. I'm not going to say they're not, but they were over the top. This thing by itself also looks ridiculous, right? Whereas I think the Keaton Batman had those batarangs that looked a little bit more realistic, and obviously the Christian Bale had these improved versions, and even the Ben Affleck one. Right, this was over the top campiness, right, to be expected. I do like that they're giving him all these, like the cutter for the vines, right? Um, this crazy looking batarang. There's one that I'm going to get to, which I think you guys are all going to laugh at. I know I laughed at. I don't think they actually have him showcased, so let me get to this. We'll get back to the sculpt, but I got to get to this thing because we got to look at everything. So you're getting batarang, smaller batarang, whatever this thing is. We're getting the heat gun, the cutter, right? And it does have some heat effects too. I hadn't noticed that. That's pretty interesting. But this thing is what got me. They're giving you the Bat Visa or the Bat American Express, whatever it was, from I guess the auction where they're trying to buy a date with Poison Ivy. I remember watching this, and look, I wasn't that young when this came out, so clearly I wasn't the target audience. But I remember kind of audibly or just wincing when this came out because it was so ridiculous. Now it's actually one of the more appealing things about this figure. So I'm all over the place with this guy because this is actually hilarious. The fact that Hot Toys is giving you this is, to me, it's them acknowledging, okay, we understand how ridiculous this figure was. We understand how ridiculous this Batman was. And yet they're giving us something. And I'm looking at this Bat credit card and I can almost see myself wanting this as much as I hated the movie. There's just something really appealing about this. I'm not saying I'm going to get this guy. Just like I said, I haven't gotten the Val Kilmer version yet. So am I immediately going to jump into this version? I doubt it very much. But look, he's actually a pretty good looking release, right, from the movie. Very simple. Again, that rubber suit, not going to allow much flexibility. You can see it with the images you're getting. He's not in the most dynamic of poses, which also matches the film's aesthetic, which these characters weren't able to really move, right? That's what the Batman Begins Christopher Nolan suit made such a point about having that kind of variable and they updated the suit for the Dark Knight and the Dark Knight Rises to allow the Christian Bale and the actors a little bit more flexibility. Now you do get the multiple lower faceplates. The more I look at these, the more I think they got these Hot Toys nailed these. Even the eyes. I mean, this looks like George Clooney to me. At first, I thought some of these were a little off, but the more I look at these, George Clooney has a very distinctive lower face. That was very much, with the cowl. Keaton had a specific look. Kilmer too, but George Clooney just looked like George Clooney, and I think Hot Toys captured that here. So, look, am I jumping for joy at this? Is this the figure that I necessarily wanted and I was clamoring for? Absolutely not, right? Not at all. Not one little bit. Is it a figure that I might be tempted to get? Surprisingly, yes. I don't know what it is. I think it looks fine, right? I just when are they ever going to do this? Right? Who's going to do this? I don't think anybody's going to touch Batman and Robin. And as much as I hate the movie, I have to kind of acknowledge that the figure, especially the sculpt, looks pretty awesome. And that back card, the fact that Hot Toys threw that in there is kind of like a gimme. It's kind of like I don't know why. That was always something I remembered from the movie. And as campy as it is, I can almost imagine having the figure displayed with that. Look, like I said, not a day one pre-order by any means. There are a lot of figures that I think have more of a priority, and you'll see that as we discuss. But it's interesting. It's interesting that I'm looking at this and I'm conflicted, because there's some figures that I will tell you off the bat, no, right? Not getting it. That doesn't meet my collection requirements, self-imposed, of course. But this one's very tempting, and I'm as surprised as anyone that I find it tempting. And maybe it's the extreme campiness of it, right? And I think he'll fit in with the collection, right? Which is probably the other way to justify this. But look, interesting release. I don't think Hot Toys is going to do anything else with this one. Well, they are doing obviously the Robin, which we're going to talk about very briefly here. So Robin, they're also doing the updated version. Look, I think Sideshow still has the original. I don't think I'm surprised that thing hasn't gotten a deep discount, or they're offering it for free. So they may not have that many left at this point. But look, it's the Chris O'Donnell version of this. Same thing, right? The suit much more, I don't want to say much simpler than the original one from Batman Forever, but same aesthetic, right? It's pure black, and the only difference he has is the red Robin, right, on his chest. I'll be the first to tell you the black and red color combo is something that pops. Here, maybe because it's a little too shiny, it's all right. Contrary to the Batman figure, and this pose just looks stupid. I'm sorry. These accessories just horrible. But look, the figure itself is fine. It's passable. I'm not as conflicted about this one as I am about the Batman, right? I think I can get the Batman, and I don't know that I necessarily need to get the Robin with him. Especially, again, the accessories. This is probably the coolest looking set of accessories. I don't remember what exactly they are. He's got that Batarang to the oversized thing that just looks ridiculous. It's just, this is not as impactful as a Batman for some reason to me, right? Even the heat gun is dumb. The laser. Look, the sculpt looks fine, right? I think that definitely looks like Chris O'Donnell with the shorter hair. The mask looks very exaggerated, which, I mean, the movie was anything but subtle, right? The movie was very much in your face, extreme about almost everything. Having the figures together is pretty cool, but I don't know. I know the movie's called Batman and Robin, but I just don't know that Robin is essential for me. The Batman definitely is something that I'd be keen on getting, but the Robin, not so much. And actually, Hot Toys didn't even have the other pictures, but look, sculpt is fine. This one I'm not as crazy about. I don't think that I'll be getting this guy, but the Batman is something that surprisingly, yeah, that one might make it into the collection. And I'm just as surprised as you are about that one, because I hated that movie. I mean, I was not a fan. All right, so let's look at another announcement. So that those were the surprising ones. Now let's wrap up with Hot Toys, because I think, let's wrap up with Hot Toys and this guy, which is the Range Trooper. Now at this point in time, he is on waitlist at Sideshow, limited to, I think it was 2,500 Q system. I didn't even get a chance to do it. I was busy in a meeting, and I was just not able to free myself to try to get this one, which is a shame, because this is actually, I'll start with this. I actually like Solo a lot. I know that's a minority opinion. I think when it comes to modern Star Wars, from the movie perspective, I liked Rogue One the best. Rogue One is an amazing movie, right? And I wish, I know it's still linked to A New Hope, but I wish that Lucasfilm, Disney, whoever's running Star Wars right now, Kathleen Kennedy, I wish they had kind of leaned more heavily into that Rogue One tone. And I know they're doing that with the Andor series, which I love as well. But Rogue One was just such a great story, and it still kept the story of the Empire, rebellion, introduced new characters that I think we all kind of really grew to love in that movie, right? And great villains. And look, it did have that classic throwback to Darth Vader at the end of Rogue One, which I think blew everybody's mind when that he had that hallway fight. And obviously how they linked it to A New Hope. But it wasn't their story. It was primarily a totally new set of characters. And they just created a really good wartime story, right? And the fact that it is also a bit of a bleak movie because everybody dies at the end. Spoilers, but again, if you haven't watched that one at this point, Rogue One is awesome. Solo was another one too that kind of got a bad rap. People were, I know that the studio kind of fired the directors. They didn't like the tone that was being set. They brought in new directors, and I think was it Ron Howard? I think Ron Howard came in to try to fix this. And frankly, the movie we ended up getting, I thought, was a great look into Solo's backstory. I mean, Emilia Clarke played a great role in this as well. And the fact that you had that reveal at the end of Darth Maul, it was just awesome. It was just awesome that Darth Maul was running that crime syndicate. I wish they had continued. Again, right, you had some key characters. It was Han Solo, a younger version of him. You did get Chewbacca there, but you also got introduced to a bunch of other characters. Yeah, you got the younger version of Lando Calrissian. But there were a lot of new characters, and it would have been great to revisit those, right? But for some reason, Lucasfilm decided to continue the story of the Skywalkers, go back to the Emperor rising again for no reason, right? They decided to do that. Look, I'm not as keen on those, but those movies, definitely Rogue One and Solo made an impact. So this guy, and I was talking to a couple of friends in the community, right? I really want to go back and watch the movie just because to see how this guy shows up. I'm the first one that will tell you I don't collect troopers, right? I have a couple of troopers from The Force Awakens, and I have a couple of troopers from Rogue One, right? The Death Trooper. I remember when that came out in the movie, that looked amazing, right? I think the Range Trooper equally looks great, right? There's just something different here, right? It's the boots, obviously the magnetic boots, the I don't know what you'd call the kind of the undershirt, but with the fur lined undershirt and undergarment, right? He's clearly someone that's going to fit with the snowtroopers, and who doesn't love the snowtroopers, right? Those are a distinctive look in Star Wars that I think people gravitate towards. And even though we only got to see them briefly in The Force Awakens, right? Even that look, I got those too because the modern version of the snowtroopers, awesome. I think this figure is going to fit in well with them. I like the fact that he's got that white-looking, super weathered blaster rifle. It's just a great figure, and I think if you got the opportunity to pick him up, kudos to you and props, because I think this is going to be one of those figures people are going to be looking at. Now, what's interesting about this guy is Rogue One's old at this point. Rogue One came out a while ago, and the fact that Hot Toys is still making figures from this, it goes back to that whole mindset that we had talked about, which was don't ever count Hot Toys out. We think Hot Toys is on to the newer and better thing. There's more Star Wars. There's more Marvel coming out. We know that. There's DC coming out because we're going to get into the new Superman trailer that Hot Toys themselves teased, right? And they kind of referenced and reposted. So you can read the writing on the wall there. But we always think that Hot Toys is going for the new stuff. But what they've been showing lately with going back to Captain America, the Winter Soldier, right? Moon Knight, the Range Trooper now is any figure that you thought was done for and that was relegated to the vault of figures that are never getting released, no longer the case. I think this new Hot Toys is very difficult to pin down. And I think what you're going to be seeing is that, they're going to be surprising us with releases from everything. So what figures did Hot Toys tease that we haven't gotten? Poe Dameron, right? We saw a tease for Poe Dameron. We now see an Oscar Isaac head sculpt. So I would say Poe Dameron's incoming, right? There was a Chewbacca that was also teased from this movie. Look, they just did the Chewie from Empire Strikes Back, right? The fully rooted, everybody's like loving that figure. There's no reason to say that they couldn't just reuse that and create the Rogue One version, right? They had teased them a while ago, right? Could they do them? Absolutely, right? So there's a lot of figures that they could go back to doing from Star Wars, from Rogue One, right? They never did Cassian Andor, and I'm hoping that they will do it from the show. But the Cassian Andor from the movie would be amazing. The guy that is partnered with Chirrut, right, with the big gun, Baze, I think, right? There's nothing to say that he can't come, right? Saul from Rogue One and also from Andor. Why couldn't they make him? So I think this just shows Hot Toys' willingness. And look, the other smart thing they're doing with these is they're slapping this exclusive thing to it. With this exclusive and with this queue requirement to kind of get these figures, we're starting to see this kind of rush to get these figures. And Hot Toys, I think, is smart, because figures that maybe they don't think are going to sell as well, or figures that might not have as much of a demand, by slapping this exclusivity to them, we as collectors tend to gravitate towards that. So I think it's a smart move. And I think you're going to start seeing, I think this year alone, you've seen how much Hot Toys has leaned into the exclusives, Star Wars exclusives, Artisan exclusives, so forth, so on and so forth. So I could see them revisiting some of those older characters, slapping an exclusive to them, and that's how they're going to get, make a run of 2,500, make a decent amount of money, and then move on, right? So nothing is out of the realm of possibility with Hot Toys right now. And this guy is pretty cool. I do actually surprisingly regret missing out on him. I know he's on wait list. He's already going for a lot of money on the secondary market. I checked eBay. It's a little bit ridiculous, but look, he's still out there. So very cool looking figure in that sense. Now, I think leaving, sorry, I clicked on the wrong thing. I'm still trying to figure this thing out. But leaving Hot Toys behind now, right? Hot Toys is also, let's see, do we have anything else Hot Toys? No. Now I'm going to get into keeping with announcements. Damn Toys, my favorite company. My second favorite company after Hot Toys. It's funny because I do, as a small kind of aside, I am going to start making my lists of top 5, top 5 Hot Toys, top 5 non-Hot Toys, disappointing releases as well. And I'll tell you, I'll give you a spoiler alert. There's not going to be much on that disappointment video, because overall I'm pretty happy with what I got. There were some things that I wasn't a fan of, but nothing that I could say, oh my God, this was the worst decision of my collecting life, right, that I did this year. So that's a good year. I had a really good collecting year. Damn Toys is going to make that list for a reason, and I won't spoil it now, but it's more to do with kind of how they're handling a particular license. But look, Damn Toys and military go hand in hand. They've been doing the traditional military figures, right? The U.S. military. I think they've been doing Russian military and so forth. And one of the interesting things, besides some of the other things they've been doing, like the Resident Evil line, the Gangsters Kingdom, or now Poker Kingdom line, which I hope is still alive, and we'll get into that in that other video. They're also doing these side things. And you can kind of see the label here, which is this Extreme Zone series, and it's almost like they're trying to create figures that don't exactly fit into modern military, but have a twist that they're kind of looking at. Like I have one of my top figures of the year last year was from this line, and it's a fully kit up guy with two handguns, rocket launcher, grenade launcher, heavily modded rifle, right? The quad red MVGs. It looks like this, similar, right? Very heavy gear. Although this one isn't as fully loaded, but look, this is an interesting take on, I guess he's called the Embroidered Uniform Guard. It's almost like a take on a modern version of the sword is like a samurai sword, right? And you could even see him with the skirt, with the more traditional kind of, I don't know what you'd call the traditional kind of battle undersuit, right? But it has the armored elements more akin to a samurai, right? It's almost like they're trying to create what a modern samurai might look like, which is a very interesting combination here. I'm not going to lie, right? That very traditional kind of scaled armor on the shoulders, on the waist, right? With the undersuit essentially it being camo. It's like an urban camo, black and gray, right? But it's the pleated skirt. But underneath, he has combat pants. He's got the combat boots, right? The gloves, the equipment, right? He's got the chest computer. You can see right there. Um, even the night vision, right? The shotgun with the lights, the AK style rifle as well. There's definitely a lot, but then you've got the traditional elements. So this is an interesting combo, right? Um, I don't know that I'm going to pick this guy up. He's very tempting, but I'm like a broken record at this point. This is where budget comes in. This is where other figures come in, right? Hot Toys is insane right now, and they keep on dropping not just announcements, but they'll keep on releasing figures. And on top of the announcements, you're getting the exclusives that we just discussed, right? That are coming out of nowhere, like the Iron Patriot, which is releasing soon. I mean, it's released already overseas, and it's just a waiting game at this point to see when he gets to the States. Um, and you do have other companies, right? And we're going to talk about them in the news section, right? Kojin Works is doing some interesting things that, they're maybe giving themselves another chance, a fighting chance after what I think was the debacle with the Joker figure from the Dark Knight. In art, they've been super quiet, but you never know, right? They're going to drop something, especially with the lines that I'm collecting from them. And rumor is the Paul Atreides from Dune is going to drop soon. So what I mean to say by all this is that as cool as a figure like this is, and like I said, when you get Damn Toys Military, you get some of the finest detailed equipment in the 6 scale game at this point. And I think you can tell right now. Even the sword, like, to Damn Toys credit, I think fans have already kind of, heavily looked at it and kind of told them it's not exactly accurate. So they're already looking at voting for 2 different versions. So for which one the collectors want. So that's pretty awesome. Right now, look, other than that, it's standard military kit. I like the fact that it's an interesting blend. And I do like this extreme zone line that they've got, because it is letting them do some very, very intriguing things. I mean, look at that guy with the sword, right there, and then with the rifle hanging. This guy's tempting. This guy is really tempting, right? I mean, there's just something there that really does set this guy apart. So, right, they even give you this, the fact that he comes with the stand, so you can have the rifle and the shotgun displayed. I don't know, right? I mean, you're getting these. That's the other thing. So you're getting them to recreate, what is it, this scene in particular. I mean, so you can have him in the more traditional armor with then the military style, modern military kit just loaded onto this mannequin and kind of displaying the guns. That's awesome, right? And that's credit to Damn Toys that they're doing stuff like that, right? The helmet we've seen before, right? So that's not anything new. Now, unlike that guy, Agent Hugh Laferg, right? This doesn't seem as heavily loaded, which is great, because that figure was a nightmare to put together and very delicate, right? But I think credit to this, right? It's a very interesting release. I'm very tempted to get this. I think he looks awesome. And as we were thumbing through the pictures together, right? It's this picture with the sword and the rifle hanging. I mean, that looks insane. I mean, that looks really cool. That looks really cool. That does. Even this, right? That just a modern samurai of sorts. That maybe. But look, that's why I love Damn Toys. They're doing crazy stuff like that. As much as I love them, they're still going to make my disappointing list of the year. But yeah, no, you got to give them credit, right? Again, if you have never owned a Damn Toys figure, Even if you've owned an easy and simple military style figure, just I have to tell you, Damn Toys is better. They just are, right? You're paying for it because these figures aren't cheap, right? Whereas Easy and Simple will run you sub 200 to 200 or a little bit over. These are Hot Toys prices, right? These are at the 250, 270 mark. When you get these in hand, though, I feel like you do feel the quality. So this is a company that I would tell you I've never blinked at paying Hot Toys prices for them. I think everything is too expensive, but again, with the level of detail they're putting into these, it's definitely a great option. So very interesting release to me, and a tempting one. Now, next one, and this one just literally dropped before I started recording this, so that's awesome. It's Caesar from Planet of the Apes. Full disclosure, I was having a conversation with Fabs from Fabs Figures. I'm not going to reiterate what he said, but he made me laugh so much when we were talking about this guy, and definitely made me rethink whether or not I would get him. Now, look, I love the movies, right? That's how I collect. I collect based on, while that Damn Toys figure is based on the coolness factor and the wow factor, most of the time I will collect figures based on the property. So why do I collect Marvel? Because I love Marvel. Why do I collect some Star Wars? Because I do enjoy those Star Wars properties, right? Why do I enjoy buy third party? Like what is it like? Oh my God, I forgot the company, like Flashpoint Toys or any of those companies, right? What is it? Not 7-Eleven. Jesus, I don't even remember what it was, but 108 Toys, right? When they did the face-off figures, even though those figures weren't good by any stretch, they were fine for what they were, but they don't come close to a Hot Toys or a 3-0 or any of those companies, right? Why do I collect Exo-6 with Star Trek? It's because I have an attachment to those properties, right? I really love those movies. I love those TV shows. So Planet of the Apes Caesar, right? We're not talking about the older Planet of the Apes or even the Mark Wahlberg one, the Tim Burton. It was fine, but it was it was a little wacky. This is much better. These movies, and I think Matt Reeves did these, right? The first three at least, right? Which is why he's doing, I think Batman in his hands, the Pattinson Batman is great, right? And if you watch the Penguin show that he did as well, right? That's Matt Reeves for you. So you got good property. So look, you're getting Caesar, and they're doing Caesar in two formats, right? So you're getting him in this like just standard ape form with fabric hair throughout with the full body. The sculpt looks awesome, and they're giving him separate rolling eyes. Look, third-party companies are getting into the rolling eyes. Rolling eyes is now standard. They did a great job, and he even has, I think he gets injured on his chest, so that looks pretty cool. He gets a standard M16, right, and then a couple of swappable hands. Nothing crazy, right? I actually don't know what he retails for, but this was unexpected to me. The fact that he comes with a horse, and look, just like the horses that we've gotten before from DID or something else, this is a statue. This is a static piece, right? That looks pretty cool, though. That looks pretty awesome to me. I don't know why. Maybe because I like the movie, right? I think they did a great job with the sculpt on this. I think the horse looks fantastic, and I like the fact that he has the rope. It's not any super fancy kind of saddle. He's just literally sitting on the horse, right? It's a little more apocalyptic, which is in line with the movie. I think this looks great. Now, this is the one that I think is really appealing, right? And this is a different version, right? And it's almost like the battle mode. And I think this one is it's either from the second or the third movie. I think it's more from the second movie. But look, he's got the war paint on, right? And the war paint on his chest too with the stripes. That looks great. You get the rifle and you get a spear. Same sort of hands. And it's really, the difference is the sculpt, right? In terms of the paint apps. And I think on the horse, he looks fantastic. This is the one that and look, the horse is separate. I think you get them for different prices. Actually, let me see really quickly if I could tell you how much these cost. Because I think it's worth, I don't even know how much they cost at this point, but let's see. I'll tell you right now. So, this guy is, so this one that we're looking at is 169. 169, very simple figure, right? Not bad. Not bad for what it is, right? Which there's no accessories. I mean, if we go back, you get a couple of hands, you get a stand, and you get this guy. So that's the first one, right? Now, I'm curious what the battle damage one looks like, because, or the battle ready one looks like, because I'm imagining, because of the extra accessory, a little bit more pricey. And yeah, as expected, 194 for this guy. Some more complicated paint apps, a different accessory. 169 versus 194, so 170. So $24 for an extra accessory, probably reasonable. And then the horse is this is it's only 167 too for the horse, so it's not bad. Nothing complicated here, right? Like DID charges you more, but they give you real leather saddles, real metal pieces, right, to make it a very intricate display. You're just getting a statue of a horse here, right, with a rope rein at that point. So it makes sense that you're not getting much. So it's tempting. This is one, if I get it, I'm probably gonna get this guy. Now, do I get him alone or do I get him with the horse? I think, like, look at this look. I think is awesome with the rifle, right? I can almost see him in the battle paint version holding the rifle in the same way, and the spear. Maybe I'll put some rope on it so that he can hang it off his back. But there's a vision I have for how this would look, and it's a great movie. If you have not seen those first three, or the three modern versions of Planet of the Apes, and I know that there's a new version that I still haven't watched, but if you haven't seen those, they're awesome movies, right? Woody Harrelson in the last one was a great antagonist. It's just a great series of movies. So this is tempting. This is definitely tempting. And look, this is where third party comes in, right? They're doing stuff that, who else is going to do this? Now, Hot Toys did do some Planet of the Apes figures back in the day from the Charlton Heston version. Cool, but are they going to revisit a license like this? Who knows? This is pretty cool. So this one is pretty exciting. So I think that's it for announcements. So now, you know what? Let's get into news. And for this segment, what I mean by news is not full announcements, but little things that we're getting teased. So we're going to go back to Hot Toys now. Look, this is one of the things they're showcasing here. So from the Flash, right, this is the Batfleck, which doesn't look like Ben Affleck. For whatever reason, right, the faceplate looks more like it's a stunt double, right? I think a lot of people discuss that. It's very bizarre. Now, I did like the suit, right? And I did like seeing Ben Affleck one more time. This is more of the gray and blue, too. I thought this Bat Cycle, at first, I was kind of like iffy about it. But I think in the movie, I like that part of the movie. That part of the Flash where Batman is chasing people through I don't think it's through, or it is through Gotham, but when he's chasing people through Gotham with this, that's pretty cool. And now they gave him this battering ram accessory, which, interestingly enough, I don't even remember from the movie. That tells you maybe how memorable it was, but I do think it adds a little something extra to this. Gives it a little bit more of a look. Is it necessary? No. Am I trying to get this? Yes. Did I order it from Sideshow? No, I did not. I did not. Hold on, I'm just trying to see if anything dropped right now from Hot Toys while we were talking. I'm just keeping an eye on it. It looks like Ron Weasley dropped from InArt, so maybe we'll talk about that, or maybe we'll save that for next week when more pictures drop. But sorry, going back to the Bat Cycle. This is one that I'd like to get because I do like that weird armored kind of biker suit look that Batman has here. I don't like the fact that the face sculpt doesn't look like him, but it's a great looking set overall. Now, I didn't get it from Sideshow. I think I'll be able to get him from another retailer after the fact. Again, Flash, at that point, the Zack Snyder version of the DCU was kind of on the way down. So not surprising that people aren't super excited about this guy, right? I think he looks cool. If I can get him, I'll get him. If I don't, not a big loss for me, right? I think I've got a bunch of other Batfleck versions, and we've got the other 2.0s coming in for both the armored suit and the regular suit from BVS. So there are going to be lots of options there for him, but pretty cool. And I do like this accessory. I have to be honest. I think this this version of the Bat Cycle, I'm starting to see the appeal of it a little bit more. And something like this, I think it's always great when Hot Toys adds a little something extra. And then as far as the last bit of Hot Toys news, again, from this Arcane League of Legends animated series on Netflix, it looks like they've got, I think it's Vi, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the sister character to Jinx. I haven't watched the show yet, right? I've watched the trailers, and the trailers look actually really good. I'm usually not, I usually don't gravitate towards the animated stuff. You know that. I've said it before. That's why I haven't picked up the What If stuff. But for some reason, again, this looks very cool. There's like a steampunk, aesthetic to it. There's a look to it that really does set it apart, and I think it's going to kind of stand apart in a collection. So that's what makes this very appealing. So, look, I'm curious to see the full reveal. I think it's great that Hot Toys is going deeper in this line, and I'm curious if these are successful. I'm definitely putting that on my queue to watch, because if these figures are successful and they continue to do some more from the animated series, I might be tempted to get these. So again, right, this just goes in. Hot Toys is continuing to just drop, not only from known properties, but they're diving into other properties. And, take for example, the what is it, the One Piece Pirates, right? The Luffy and the other guy that they dropped. Not figures that I'm interested in getting, but Hot Toys does the unexpected, right? Then you've got stuff like Beetlejuice, right? Then you've got stuff, the one-offs, the John Wicks, the stuff that nobody anticipates. So Hot Toys is that unknown at this point that you just don't know. So even something like this that's very tempting. It's like, would this go over that damn Toys figure that we were just looking at, right? Who knows? So a great tease from Hot Toys. So a couple of things coming in there. But now the other one that I want to get into is, and we're almost done. I promise I won't keep you too much longer. But I want to talk about Kojin Works, J&D Studio, and hopefully this is muted. But we talked last week, before I press play on this, we talked last week about how they had the first teaser, and it was the Selena Kyle from The Dark Knight Rises. And more specifically, it was the version of her from that scene where she steals the pearl necklace from Bruce Wayne at Wayne Manor. And right, they showcased her with the kind of catering outfit, right, with the white collar, the pearls, obviously, the tray of food for Bruce. So I was kind of interested, but I thought it was a bizarre look to go with. And I had mentioned, I would have almost preferred to have the airport look where she's captured and she's trying to escape from Gotham, right? And obviously the Catwoman look. Well, we've got two more teasers from J&D Studios, and I think this week, so maybe next week, we'll discuss for Monday, for the next rundown, we'll discuss the figure. But we did get this tease from J&D, and as we watch, it's clear that they're going to give us three different looks, because we're going to see the Catwoman next, but they're basically giving us that airport look here, right? So we're going to start seeing some images pop up, but J&D, I don't know if this is going to be a 3-pack or if it's going to be a variable pack, right? They're giving you the suitcase, the purse she carries, or the bag she carries. They're giving you rolling luggage. You can see that here, right? Great detail too on it. And she's got that very elegant look that she had from that scene. It's a very business suit kind of look. Not a business suit, but just a more classy look, right? She's got the gloved hands. The sculpt, I have seen some pictures of it, and it looks pretty impressive. Even the material choice. There's a lot that I think is very interesting here. She even has the hat. I think we're going to see that at some point. It's a great alternate look for Selena Kyle, and I think it's one of the more memorable looks from the movie besides the suit itself. So look, she looks great. Now, do you need a figure of Selena Kyle with luggage? That's for you to decide. But I think it was probably more of a memorable look and something that is a little bit more in line with Selena Kyle. But that wasn't the only tease we got. And this is their third one right before they drop the full reveal, which should be happening in the next day or two. And this is what I think a lot of us have been waiting for, which is, well, I don't know that a lot of us have been waiting for, but it's their version of Catwoman. And actually, you know what? I'll let the credits roll and then I'll pause it before we get into things a little bit. But it's interesting because Hot Toys just did the 2.0. Let me pause it. Hot Toys just did the 2.0 Catwoman, right, themselves. Great figure, right? I have the original, and I thought it was a good figure for what it was as well. I think it looked great. The 2.0 is definitely an improved version. Now, Inart, who has been kind of nipping at Hot Toys' his heels a little bit when it comes to some of those Dark Knight figures, or right, the Joker. They did the Joker, right? So did J&D, but I think they just leapfrog Inart. J&D just leapfrog Inart by doing a Catwoman, right? They're the second company to essentially do a Catwoman. So as opposed to every version of Batman conceivable that we've gotten now, multiple versions from Hot Toys and from J&D, we're now getting and everybody doing a Joker. This is the first time we're seeing a second company, I think, tackle the Catwoman, the Selena Kyle Catwoman for the Dark Knight Rises. So I'm curious to see how it looks, right? Sue looks great, right? The textured elements, the zipper, right? She's got straight hair, so I don't think it's as complicated a look as some of the other figures that are being done with Artisan or the like. But it's great that you're getting this option. Again, I don't know if this is going to be a 3-pack or not, but the details that you're seeing here on the gloves, the longer gloves, the belt, this looks pretty impressive. I'm not going to lie. Even the boots, right? There's a different material, right? Which we know from the movie, but they definitely made a point of, there's even a color variation in those that I think Hot Toys did capture. Look, this looks great. This was an interesting looking Catwoman. J&D doesn't really showcase them as posed up too much, right? So it's a question of what are we getting, right? We know we're getting a 6-scale version of her. You can already see the different types of hands. Again, the sculpt, based on what I saw, looks pretty decent, right? This looks pretty phenomenal. Hold on, let's pause it there. I mean, that looks great, right? There's definitely a texture difference, I think, for the gloves, maybe over wrinkled, but it's very clearly different. I'm curious. I'm not saying that this is going to be the best figure ever, right? I think that would be the wrong thing to say. But I'm curious to see what J&D Kojin Works are planning and what they're going to be doing. Price point is going to be critical, right? That's where I think they shot themselves in the foot with that first Joker. And look, people did get it, right? Some people decide that this might be the best version of the Joker. I thought that the scope was a little lacking. And look, now you've got to compete with Artisan. The Artisan Joker head sculpt from Hot Toys was incredible. Now for Selena Kyle, a couple of questions that we don't know, right? And we won't know until later this week. It's, you clearly are getting 3 different looks, right? You've got the Pearl heist look, you've got the airport look as she's trying to escape, and then you've got the Catwoman look. Now, what is J&D going to do, right? Is it going to be a 1-pack? Is it going to be a 2-pack where you can get just swappable clothing? Is it going to be a 3-pack? Because then it's like, do you really need a 3-pack for that? Up to the collector, right? And I'm curious what the price point is going to be at that point, right? Or is it going to be each one that you can get single, right? Like what they did with the Harry Potter figures was, I think you can get each one as a single pack, or no, I actually think they sold them as a 3-pack only. And then they had the Harry Potter with the Quidditch look as a separate. So I'm curious. I'm very curious to see what they're going to do with this one. And then the second question becomes what they did with the Batman figure with their armory. Was the Bruce Wayne was the posable figure, and the Batman was essentially a statue, a 6-scale statue, which I think was a mistake, right? When you collect 6-scale figures, or when I collect, I'm not going to try to speak for everyone, but when I collect 6 scale figures, one of the biggest, most appealing things is the posability. To be able to pose these in however I see fit, right? If I want a statue, I'll get a statue. But when I get a 1/6 scale figure, even if it's a museum pose, just holding a gun or with the gun slightly where I want to tweak it just a little bit, 6 scale gives you that option. And that's what Hot Toys has done so well. That's what I think InArt is doing and trying to do, right? Other companies have done it. So for Kojin Works to not do that with that Batman figure, I think was an epic fail. I think that was the fact that they gave us the Bruce Wayne as the figure. It's like, well, yeah, it's great to have a suited Bruce Wayne with a very nicely tailored suit. But with the Batman, you want to pose up the Batman, right? You don't want the Batman. Some people might want him in a museum pose, but others might want him a little bit more dynamic, right? Batman is a brawler. Batman is a figure that lends himself to being a little bit more dynamic, to holding up the a couple of batarangs or the grappling hook, right? There are definitely options there that I think Kojin Works decided not to do. And maybe they thought, listen, we're going for a specific look. They are a statue company, so maybe that was what their guiding principle was. But I think that was a miss. So the reason I bring that up, it'll be curious to see what they do with this 6 scale announcement for this Catwoman. I'm curious. I'm tempted. I'll see if it's worth the price. And price point is going to do everything, right? If the price point is too high, might be a pass. If this thing is not a figure and it's a statue, probably going to be a pass. But at this point, we don't know. What we're seeing here, very curious, very interesting, very tempting. But I think that all depends, and it all hinges on ultimately what J&D finally announces to us. All right, so last thing, and then we can all head out to our activities for the day, right? Or at least I will. But let's look at trailers. All right, and big one that dropped, and I think we've all probably seen it at this point, is the new Superman trailer. So, I'm gonna put this on in the background, and I'll pause it at certain points as we watch. But look, I'm gonna start by saying I don't hate this movie off the bat, right? I loved Man of Steel. I thought Man of Steel was probably, and let's pause it here for a second. I thought Man of Steel was, it is one of my favorite movies, even though I'm a Marvel fan, right? I grew up reading Superman and Batman comics. So anytime DC was putting out, or Warner Brothers was putting out a Superman movie, I'll be there day one. Man of Steel, and this is to Zack Snyder's credit, and Christopher Nolan was involved with that original Man of Steel to a degree. But Man of Steel just did something that I really liked, which is they made Superman a little bit darker, right? And I know that's what a lot of people did not like, because Superman's a beacon of hope, right? So, that I get where that's coming from, and the dislike for the Zack Snyder version of the character, right? Like somebody said, Superman doesn't seem like he's having fun. And then Warner Brothers super auto-corrected with the Joss Whedon cut of the Justice League, where you have, an extremely hopeful Henry Cavill, which is fine. Look, it worked. I hated that movie. I hated Joss Whedon's cut, right? I hated it. That was the first time I walked out of a movie theater and I canceled the figure. And that was the Tactical Batman, because I hated the movie so much. Especially coming off the buildup of Man of Steel, BVS, and BVS, it's the Snyder cut version, because I think that one was awesome. That was an awesome movie. Wonder Woman, right, which is another great movie, the original, had some moments, but overall pretty good. And then even the Suicide Squad was enjoyable. So coming off of all these movies, right, and then jumping into Justice League, which was, first of all, 2 hours, way too short, right? It was what it was, right? So that was basically the end of the Snyder universe. And unfortunately, Henry Cavill, right, the last time we saw him was in Black Adam, which, look, another one that got a lot of hate, but it was actually pretty entertaining. I didn't think it was the best movie ever by far, but look, we are where we are. Henry Cavill's no longer Superman. I love that version of Superman. So look, without a doubt, Hot Toys is already teasing this, right? They shared this. So be prepared for a new Superman figure. We're gonna get Superman, right? It's a different suit. Do I like the look of the underwear outside? No, not really. Now this is also a very different looking Clark Kent, right? Um, so be prepared for Hot Toys to give us a Clark Kent too. I mean, they've done it before, right? So why not? Or you're gonna get it from a third party. But from a figure perspective, that one's coming. Will Hot Toys do battle damage sculpt? I think it depends on how critical this is for the movie overall. Um, so already at least one figure from Hot Toys, right? There's no way they're not going to do Superman, right? Will they do a Clark Kent? Will they do a Lois Lane? That's probably more in the realm of third party. So, look, I do trust James Gunn. I think he's done some good movies. This is just a personal side. I think I know who this actor is. This is fine. I heard someone say that this movie does not have the budget that Warner Brothers usually had, right? Warner Brothers seems to be in a little bit of trouble. They're always looking at selling. But you're coming off the performance of Kevin Costner as Pa Kent. So it just seems like a downgrade, right? I'm curious who they got to be Jor-El, if we're even going to see Jor-El at this point, since this is supposed to be a more established Superman. But you're coming off Kevin Costner and those actors. So, look, I don't want to seem like a downer, right? I'm going to reserve judgment. Now, this is another cool thing, right? Crypto. I think this is cute, right? Maybe it's because I'm a dog lover. But I think it's great to see Crypto show up. Be prepared. He's going to come with Superman. When you think about what accessory they can give you, he's without a doubt coming with Superman. We're going to get a Crypto. Lex Luthor. You know, I like this actor. Does he scream Lex Luthor to me? I'll wait to see the movie, right? Are we going to get a Lex Luthor figure? Who knows? Doubtful from Hot Toys at least. But we'll see. Where I think the movie can start getting deep is coming up now. Now, this is Guy Gardner. I think he looks ridiculous, but it matches the look from the comic book. So, look, if there's somebody who does that well, it's James Gunn. So, reserve judgment again. But him, you get Hawkgirl, in that kind of corporate look, right? You get a couple of others that we're going to see here. So the point is, there's a possibility of getting a lot more figures than just Superman. But I think at the very least, there's this guy. I forget who he is, right? I haven't read his comics, or I haven't read these comics in a while, so I don't know who those characters are. But look, I think without a doubt, you're going to be getting a Superman. So let's see if let's hover over a Superman here for a little bit. I mean, that's kind of the money shot of the trailer, right? That's what everybody was kind of saying. But look, you're going to get a Superman. Without a doubt, you're going to get a Superman, and I think you're going to get a Crypto. Everybody else, I think it depends on how the movie does. I am in the minority because reading all the comments, it seems like everybody loved this trailer. For me, I thought it looked decent. Again, coming off the Man of Steel and the tone that was set in Man of Steel, maybe it's a little bit hard for me to let go. And I don't want you to think that I'm like a hater or hating on this already, because I'm not. I'm very curious to see how it turns out. I'm hoping I come out of that movie theater and I can say I was wrong, right? This looks awesome. It turned out great. James Gunn did a great job. Bring on the next one. Bring on more movies in his DC universe. But right now, I'll take everything with a grain of salt, right? It looks, I think the casting is pretty decent to certain degrees, right? I think the new Lois Lane looks good, right? I think Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner. The new Superman looks okay. I actually don't think I've seen him in anything at this point, so I'll have to track something down to see how he does. But Lois Lane, I think, is definitely a win, right? I know the actress from some other shows, and she's awesome. Nicholas Hoult, who's playing Lex Luthor, he's been great in other shows, so great actor. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. From the trailer, just some things look a little hokey. And maybe that's the tone, right? That is the tone that James Gunn sets. And look, if the Guardians are anything to go by, he does have that tone, right? And maybe that's suitable for Superman, right? To give you that more sense of hope. Zack Snyder definitely leaned more heavily into the darkness of the character, right? That's always been his thing. So I like that, and I like the fact that some of the scenes were there. I thought the casting in Man of Steel was phenomenal. So basically, this maybe just has a lot to live up to because of how I felt about that movie. But I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt. Now, look, as far as figures, and that's the reason we're discussing this again. Without a doubt, I think you're gonna be getting a Superman. And one of the things, just like we saw with Deadpool coming with Dogpool, you're gonna get a Crypto, right? That hold on, is there? Let me see if we can find a shot of Crypto, because I think that's what a lot of people are gonna remember from this trailer. And I could see it, right? This was a hit, right? Crypto again, because I'm a dog lover, maybe, and he looks cute. He's got his little cape as well. I think he's gonna be one of those characters like Baby Groot, like like little Groot, or even like Grogu. Right, he's gonna be one of those characters that people just want, right? Like Dogpool. So I can see us getting a figure of him, and then everybody else. It looks like there are a lot more heroes in this movie. So, look, there's an endless possibility that you could get a bunch of other things. So that's pretty much it. So a lot of interesting things coming up, and then we'll see. Like I said, let me do one last check before we end things. Looks like Ron Weasley from Harry Potter from InArt just got released. Rumor is that Paul Atreides from Dune is also getting released at this point in time. So that's pretty curious. Nothing from Hot Toys at this point in time. So I think we'll just see, and we'll discuss that next week. But look, again, for all of you, thanks for tuning in and for spending a little time with me. And then we'll touch base next week after the holidays and before the new year. And again, just hope you all have a great time and have a nice restful break for those of you. So happy holidays, everybody. And we'll touch base in the next video.